What is up, my lovely people in BluCranium land? So for today's video, guys, I'm going to be showing you all how I render hair for my skull characters or skeleton characters. This one has got that really flowy, kind of scanty looking look to it. Almost looks like it's kind of wearing a wig. So if that's something you guys are interested in, stick around and let's get started. So I went ahead and borrowed one of the older thumbnail sketches that I'd done of a skull, and I figured just do my line art over it, so that way I would have the base for the actual hair, or at least where the hair would originate. I mean, you can't really show how you draw hair without having an actual skull head, right? So I figured just have some fun and do my favorite part of any video creation, which is the line art. And when I drew this little nose for this little guy and the wonderful textured look, so it has that nice texture, skull, grungy look. And when you think about hair, there's so many different hairstyles and so many different types of hair that you can illustrate. So for this one, I pretty much chose to go with something simple, which would just be straight wavy kind of hair, kind of almost like it has like that blow in the wind kind of a look. And I figured that would be something simple that if people chose to follow along, that they could do. I mean, I'm doing it on the tablet over here, but you can pretty much also do the exact same thing if you had your own sketchbook to follow along. So last week's video that I'd uploaded to the channel was supposed to be a playlist where I was just gonna draw out these fantasy demonoid concept art looking characters that I just draw for fun. And I used to kind of draw these for fun before I even started up the channel, So I kind of wanted to drift a little bit away from the onboard of just skeleton drawing. And I don't know why I said onboard, but just drawing skeletons and kind of trying to fuse different characters in that. And the drawing in the big pens, especially when they've been sitting a little while in the box, is kind of frustrating, because that's what ended up happening. I kind of had to use a little bit of heat to get the ink going, but once it was going, I mean, it was pretty fine, So just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, so now to draw the actual hair, I'm just going to start out with this nice wavy, swoopy kind of a line, which will be the first strand of the hair. And that's pretty much like the baseline, to start any hair, at least that's the way I do it. And, if you're using the digital pen or the Apple Pencil that I'm using over here, there are different brushes that you can use to mimic hair. And I guess if you want to do something that's on the wavier, curlier side, I guess if you play around with the I'm trying to think if it's called the smoothing of the brush, you can actually get the the curly kind of look to the hair. I mean, I've not really tried it per se in an actual video, but I have tried it when I'm not recording, and it kind of gives you a nice close to the the original look of hair. The reason why I choose to do this type of hair is because when I want to color it, it's fairly simple, because I just turn the line art layer into a reference layer, and then I'm just able to drop color over it and kind of just build out the texture of the hair, with the highlights and the shine and the glow and all that other fun stuff that hair has to offer. Another technique that I like to use when I'm drawing digitally is getting into the habit of using a lot of layers, because what ends up happening is if you ever make a mistake, you can always go ahead and clear the layer or delete the layer. And in this case, I actually have the hair on a different layer. So what ends up happening with that is, if you ever find that you've made a mistake of some sort and you kind of want to undo it, you kind of don't have to go ahead and be really meticulous with how you use the eraser and kind of end up erasing some of the lines that you've already put down. So what I did over here, as I said, is made a new layer, and then I just started drawing the hair freestyle on that layer. So if I were to go over the actual skull, it wouldn't matter, because then I can just go ahead and erase it out, or kind of like turn down the opacity and see where all the lines were going, so that way it makes it easier to do. And that's definitely one of the biggest advantages of drawing digitally. You can do all these things, but when you're drawing traditionally, once you put that line down there, you got to make sure that that's where exactly it is you wanted that line to be. Otherwise, there's no turning back. So now here, what I did was went ahead and turned down the opacity of the skull, and then just kind of use the eraser to kind of erase parts of the skull that I didn't want to see, or don't have, or rather not show it, because the hair kind of covers that part. And this is just one technique also that I use. So what ends up happening is, once I've erased these lines, I can go ahead and bump the opacity back up the skull back to 100%, and then just kind of go ahead and merge the layers. Now that I've drawn the skull and the hair out, I went ahead and chose this lightish kind of a brown to show how I would actually go ahead and color the actual hair on the actual scalp. So it has that nice 3D kind of look to it, so it doesn't kind of look just flat. And what I was telling you guys earlier is, when you draw wavy hair and you want to do the shading, pretty much all I did over here was just use the line art as reference layer, and I just kind of went ahead and started dropping the ink manually, or like just touching it and just letting the ink flow. It would be so cool if you could color like this in actually when you're doing traditional art. It could just speed up the process a whole lot more. But go ahead and fill those little pieces in, and again, just drop some color over there. You can pretty much choose any kind of color you want. You can choose blues, you can choose greens, enjoy with it what you want, and make the your illustration as vibrant as you want it to look. So at this point, I kind of felt like the brown kind of looked too flat. So what I figured I'd do is I went ahead and make a new layer and use a clipping mask, and kind of went ahead and chose a little bit of a darker brown from the one I've already done. And now this will be the actual shadow. But then I was like looking at it and I was like, maybe if I give the highlights first, or the different colors of the hair first, then I can kind of go back in and do the shadows. So I figured I'd choose this kind of like a teal kind of a blue, which gives the hair that nice party kind of vibe going on. And you'll notice, like, now when you look at the image, the blue kind of doesn't fill all the way in. So what ends up happening for that, or how you're gonna have to correct it, is when you drop the actual swatch of the color into that area, you kind of go ahead and drag the pen tip on the display till you see that number on the top kind of increase to about 80 to about 90%. So that is what fixes that problem. And I kind of went ahead and did it more than once. And the key to doing it is you're gonna want to do the drop ink on the left corner of the screen, and kind of go ahead and do that, so that way you end up filling the entire portion of the hair or whatever you're coloring at that point, so that way you don't have, like, these whitish kind of backgrounds or outlines to what you're drawing. So here now I just went ahead and I said, like, made a clipping mask and just chose a little bit of a darker shade of the blue, so that way it kind of gives the hair that nice kind of a glowy kind of look. But anyway, guys, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this video up, and I'm not going to show you all the entire coloring process because I've already shown it to you guys. So we'll go ahead and sign off and saying bye always, like always, keep creating, keep trying. I'll see you guys down the road or on the other side. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.